Gentlemen, welcome back. It's Paul, combat veteran, MMA fighter, YouTuber, and today we are going to be checking out the second part of Halo Wars 1. This is the cinematics. Why have I watched things all out of order? Because YouTube is not good at suggesting videos to me. That's what I rely on you guys for. Let me know in the comments if there are other Halo videos you want me to break down. Alright, let's get into it. Okay, so we actually talked about this in the previous video. This is where, as a commander, you have to make your money, right? Is he going to assist
Serena,
the ground troops,
bring the ship
or
to
is
alert.
he going to assist the forces in orbit? You know my opinion.
It's an energy shield that they can deploy on the planet.
Yes, Captain. We can't see through it. The Covenant are up to something.
Agreed. We need to find out what that is. Can we use the ship's cannons and take it out directly?
We may destroy whatever's under there. Covenant shield technology is susceptible to superheated plasma. Aren't we field testing some plasma-based rhinos?
Pillar of Autumn inventory shows they have some prototypes.
It may take some time to get the right power settings. I'll need to be on the ground to do that.
Professor, Sergeant Forge, let's get that shield down.
Babysitting again?
Yep, babysitting missions. Again, no, every mission often feels like a babysitting mission. When I was deployed, it was a routine operation to be escorting all sorts of people around the AO who were on important missions. They ranged, sometimes it was a brigade or battalion commander who decided they wanted to check something out. Sometimes it was what they called provincial reconstruction teams. Those were teams that would range around the province and sort of supervise the construction of different projects. We took out human intelligence teams to meet with their informants. We would take out USAID agricultural specialists who wanted to get a sense of the efforts to expand the cultivation of non-opium crops. We would take out justice experts, right? These are people who were tasked with enhancing the Afghan justice system. In fact, there is almost every facet of life in Afghanistan had some sort of team who was trying to enhance it. And just the scale of this operation right in Afghanistan really makes you understand how monumental, honestly, the failure was. The fact that every tier of civil society had the full weight and backing of experts from the United States. Again, experts from the United States working hand in hand with them, and still you just can't overcome the strength of cultural norms, right? And ultimately it doesn't matter, all these institutions, because the Afghans ultimately didn't really want them around. So the point of all that is to say, Sergeant Forge's babysitting again is like the norm for missions.
Arbiter, you are unusually quiet. What troubles occupy your thoughts?
Hierarch, I do not wish to be impudent, but you have charged me with the destruction of humanity.
A most noble cause for one with such a troubled past.
And I am thankful for my task. But sire, you have me skulk in ancient ruins and search empty temples. How does this help me accomplish my goal?
The war with the humans will require a great deal many more machines than we can currently muster.
I will take what we have.
And leave us defenseless? No. The ancients will provide for us. This world shall be the birthplace for an invasion fleet beyond imagining. Enough to crush the humans quickly and with ease.
I'm going to point this out, that it's not unusual for a high-level strategic commander to get way deep down in the weeds of how their sub-commanders are operating. And this is an incredible frustration, though I can imagine if you were a commander whose task was destroy humanity, to be micromanaged to the point where you personally were being sent on individual assignments would drive you up the freaking wall. And so it doesn't shock me that this commander is at probably his boiling point, given that my understanding is that this figure has a almost religious authority, much like, say, the Pope. The fact that he is willing to speak out his frustrations probably means he's just about ready to strangle his scrawny neck.
But this world lies dormant. It is just a shell.
Blasphemy! The key will be found with patience. But perhaps there is a quicker way. The human female from the Ice Relic. She has some knowledge in this regard. The new planet the relic has led us to has also led her. Capture that human and bring her here.
It will be done.
Also, gotta love the useless ceremonial guards. Why are they, again, I keep complaining about this because these aliens seem to love having guards face inward. If their job is to safeguard head figure, worm, scrawny neck guy, or even this sub-commander, then surely they would want to face outward, since the scrawny neck guy is unlikely to, you know, kill himself.
Hey, how about one for the scrapbook, Professor?
If you don't mind, Sergeant, I'm trying to document this area for study.
You will come with me.
Why don't we put the lady down and talk about this man to freak?
As you wish.
Anders, get out of here!
I'll come quietly if you let him live.
Interesting. Yeah, if you could get a cloaking device in the real world, that would be pretty decisive. If you've seen the documentary Predator, you understand what I'm talking about. Okay, if you're trying to rescue friendlies, then shooting recklessly at things as you approach them is a good way to have a friendly fire incident.
Sir, I'm okay. Spirit of Fire, this is Forge. I lost Anders.
Just gonna point out, I know, in every Vietnam movie, somebody has these, like, playing cards stuffed in their helmet band. One, I remain bothered that he has no helmet, but two, okay, so I think those playing cards were sometimes used. One, tactically they make no sense. They are they stand out like a bright white dot, right? The saying "shoot me." But I think the other thing that they were originally used for is to identify brigades, maybe. The 101st, for example, the Airborne Division, their 4 brigades track with 4 different playing cards. So I think instead of hearts, they have the Rakasans, who get sort of like, it looks like the symbol for pi. But they keep those symbols on their helmet to help identify what brigade they're with. Obviously, when you deploy as brigade combat teams, you're a little less likely to have brigades getting mixed up, but for tradition's sake, they keep them on there. I actually stole 1st Brigade combat teams. They had this big carved wooden clover leaf, right, the clubs suit, over top their talk, and when a helicopter landed, it got knocked off the talk, sort of by the rotor wash, and somebody picked it up, and they never did find where it went. That's all I'm gonna say about that.
What happened?
Some massive elite came out of nowhere.
Captain, I'm tracking her transponder. It's heading away from the planet.
Damn it.
Sergeant, get up here on the double.
Already en route, sir. We're all accounted for. Why haven't we left yet?
Why aren't you in the med bay, Sergeant?
The Professor's signal has gone to light speed, headed for the border.
All right, there's some physics problems that occur when if her signal is gone. Like, how would a transponder transpond if the person's moving at the speed of light. Like they're moving at the speed of time itself, right? So you run into these relativity problems.
That puts it outside weapon range.
What? We have to go after her.
Sir, I can only track that transponder a few more seconds.
Oh, okay, there we go. So it's probably as they accelerate to light speed, the signal would sort of get stretched out and become more and more delayed over time. Someone with a better understanding of relativity physics should try to correct me.
Captain!
Sir, Anders represents a significant security breach.
Serena, get us underway immediately. Follow that signal.
Aye, aye, sir.
Okay, so that was a shortened version of what may constitute, though, a very shortened, very truncated version of a staff assessment. You notice how his 3 people who are experts in this field shared with their commander the information most relevant to get him to make a decision. Now, a random Spartan, probably not the person who should have reminded him about Anders representing security breach. I think he already knew that, but also that is something that would be done by like an XO. Usually you have this second in command, and that's someone who you are most likely to, that's the person, that and your senior non-commissioned officer, your, for example, first sergeant or sergeant major, they're the ones who are most in the position to be able to sit you down and remind you of, like, we call it azimuth checking. Things like, hey man, remember, this scientist knows a lot about our operations. Like, does the commander know that? Yes, but as he's weighing things, it sometimes is good to remind someone the weight of the certain things on the scale.
So, we left a note saying we're leaving, right?
Where the hell are we, Serena?
We're in orbit around a planet in the middle of... Actually, I'm still working on that, sir.
Anders?
The Covenant vessel we pursued appears to have taken cover on the planet's surface. I have rough coordinates.
Any sign of other Covenant activity?
Not that I can detect. Although this world is giving off some pretty crazy readings.
Get Forge down there.
I believe he's already aboard a Pelican, awaiting your word.
Really bothered by the fact that they're relying on a sergeant. Maybe by sergeant they mean like a first sergeant or something. I mean, again, the future Earth may have a different structure in terms of leadership. There may be a case of the fact that as a commander that he is the officer and that everyone under him is a sergeant, but normally if you were a task force commander, which it looks like this guy is, given that he's in charge of both naval and ground operations, we would probably call him a task force commander. He would have a lot of subordinate commanders, subordinate officers who have their own individual commands. There would be a ground force commander who would discuss these things. There would be an air wing commander who would answer to him to be the air wing expert. And they would also function as part of his staff. They would be, think of the Joint Chiefs of Staff as the largest example. There's a singular commander of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, but then the chief, the Army representative, the Navy representative, the Marine Corps representative, or the Coast Guard representative, they offer their expertise in those given areas when the chairman has to make a decision. And that can be thought of all the way down these task force areas. Individual subcommanders with their specific roles and forces will weigh in not only on the status and availability of their forces, but on how they can best be employed.
This is her.
Yes, Hierarch. This is the one I observed.
Such a frail thing.
Okay, so coming from the dude whose neck is this big in diameter.
You would hardly think them a threat.
I demand to know why I'm being held.
Demand. Arbiter, a human ship has arrived and is closing in on the entrance port.
Their willingness to hit each other also bothers me. Like, there's a level of professionalism and decorum that you just have to have. Right? I understand that if you're an elite commander, but like surely not getting punched around is like a requisite for like respect. But maybe that's a human thing. Maybe just command via respect.
Iraq to high charity.
Like, you could hit somebody and knock them on their butt and then still, like, collaborate with them to come up with a plan.
Intercept that human ship and destroy it at once.
But maybe the reason, okay, so the reason that modern militaries, and frankly, almost every modern organization relies so heavily on collaboration, right? You notice that if you work for like startups, you know, the classic example of the CEO wearing a t-shirt and, you know, being involved in every part of the company's business, the reason that stereotype exists is because, frankly, it just gets a lot done. We've realized in the past 20 years that the old school manufacturing, you know, GM way of doing things is pretty terrible. And that's one of the reasons why, you know, GE and GM, these legacy companies where a CEO sits atop and they have their board members and the chain of command goes all the way down, and it's not very conducive to collaboration, just doesn't produce change fast enough. Hierarchies tend to be very conservative, right? People on top don't want to do anything that's going to disrupt their chances of staying on top. So you have to flatten and you have to create collaboration in order to achieve a really high level of success. And so, but maybe that's a human being thing. And the reason we love collaboration is because our brains are terrible, right? Like, we can focus on exactly one thing at a time. We can juggle only a few pieces of knowledge. I think it's like 7 to 14 at one time. And for complex decisions that require a wide breadth of vision, you have to do a lot of requisite analysis. And so that's why I talk so much about a commander and their staff, is because that collaboration, that collaborative environment will make or break a military campaign. So when you have this sort of these warrior aliens who beat each other up, like, for saying the wrong thing, well, next time, if you don't want to get beat up, you're not going to speak your mind, which means that collaboration and the ability to see the whole picture and hear some honest feedback takes a hit. It blinds you.
Nothing but ocean.
Are you sure this is it, Serena?
Fairly sure. Initiating a deep scan. Docking. Cleansing. That's not right. Captain, you're not going to like this.
Serena!
Captain, we've got company.
All hands engage. Serena, I've got troops out there still. Get them back on board now.
Captain, I can only hold this position a few minutes at the most.
Now, Serena!
Recalling surface squads so we can all die together. Aye, sir.
Yeah, that sort of sarcasm in a crisis is actually not welcome on a bridge. Here's the thing. There's a time and a place to discuss whether or not the commander is making exactly the right call. And if you don't think so in a crisis, you don't get to say so with sarcastic asides. You get, basically, if you are a member of that staff, you're like a referee. You have one time you get to throw a flag. And that's kind of a single-use item in a crisis, right? You throw that flag and you say, sir, the squads won't make it back in time. It'll take them too long. We're going to go under. Like, you get one chance to communicate clearly with your commander that they're making a bad decision in your opinion, and you give your succinct reasoning, and they have that one moment to give a thumbs up, thumbs down. I've been that commander, right? I've had people say, I don't think this is a good idea. I think we need to turn around. And the truth is, that's where your reputation as a subordinate comes into play, right? I listen harder when it is an NCO who I know is a get it done kind of NCO who will sit there and go, who most of the time, if the orders aren't totally bananas, they won't say anything. So when they speak up and they really have concerns, I listen hard. If it's somebody who complains about every single thing that happens, then I don't listen. And that's what I mean about the fact that you have a limited number of those flags.
This is all part of the plan, right, guys?
This dialogue is weird. Just the writing, it's sort of stiff. But I guess this is early in the Halo franchise, or earlier, so maybe they didn't really realize that
Hard starboard!
Hard starboard, aye. They are charging weapons.
Battle stations, bring weapons online. Tell Forge he's not done out there yet.
Alerting the sergeant. Aye, sir.
Again, we talk about clear communication. I always think the AIs are kind of weird in this, but I think they're supposed to be. My understanding of Halo lore is that AIs are kind of weird and they're really smart, but they're sort of their own bizarre animal. And so maybe you just sort of tolerate all of their quirks. But she definitely has a lot. Again, in a crisis, you want to clearly communicate. So something like message sent is the way to do it. Or, weapons charged, right? Clearly stating what has and has not yet happened.
So, am I the only one freaked out by the fact we're inside the planet?
Restraints off.
The recording quality seems to have taken a hit.
Your judgment has waited long enough.
Just get it over with.
Ancients have granted us the power to doom your race. Let the deconstruction of our gifts begin. The majesty of our new fleet will be unparalleled.
Yep, those guards, as discussed, now they're facing outward.
Nothing ventured. Surface.
Why does it speak English? Is that addressed in lore?
That worked out pretty well. Or maybe not.
Lady, I haven't got all day. You want to be rescued or not?
Is this really going to work, Professor?
I believe this is our best hope. The overloaded FTL reactor will cause a chain reaction in the sun.
Enough to destroy all the ships here before the Covenant can get a chance to make anything from them.
Well, put simply, Captain, our reactor will cause the sun to go supernova, leaving nothing here but dust.
That's the weak part of this plan, if you ask me. We've no way home without that reactor.
One problem at a time, Serena. If the Covenant get their hands on these ships, it will mean the end of the war. We'll take our chances here to give humanity some hope.
I know it's been a tough call, Captain. But it's the right one.
Spirit of Fire, this is Forge. She's buttoned up and ready to go.
Deliver that package. package safely, Sergeant.
Keep the coffee hot. I'll be back before you know it.
I'll be monitoring you from here, Sergeant.
Well, it'll be pretty obvious if he succeeds.
Yep, I'm always curious with their policy of having like 5 people do these sort of operations. Yeah, okay, so there's a force ratio. If you need to attack, I understand that in lore this is like a small outmaneuvered ship. Doctrinally, you usually want to have a 3-to-1 fire superiority ratio, right? If you're going to attack. Now, conventionally, 3-to-1 is literally you want 3 bodies for every one of the defenders' bodies, because obviously you have to advance and breach. The defenders do not. They just get to sit there and shoot at you. But with the advent of modern technological advancements, those numbers can get pretty skewed. So, for example, if you are able to have attack aircraft or achieve air superiority, or even have longer range weapons, armor, rocket launchers, indirect fire support, those things can all skew in favor, right? In some of the more set-piece battles of the Afghan war, like the Battle of Wanat, for example, it was something like 300 Taliban fighters were held off by around 100 U.S. military members. And so the result, but that was in large part because of the additional firepower and the operation of close air support.
Gentlemen, we're burning sunshine here.
It's active!
Sergeant. Lieutenant? Take care of those elites. He's mine.
No, it's a Halo theme.
Let's go.
The ceremonial guards, I guess, were assigned to that position because they're not very good at actual fighting. Nothing bothers me more than the one at a time fight tactic enjoyed by faceless henchmen in every martial arts flick. Okay, that's actually pretty crafty.
Like the rest of your race, weak and undisciplined.
Which, as discussed, this is coming from a man who just beats the hell out of his subordinates.
There will be no female to save you this time.
Look me in the eye and say that.
As you wish. My face will be the last thing your pathetic eyes ever see.
Always sort of curious. So, okay, yes, head wounds are usually fatal, and you can sort of infer where a creature's brain is because the eyes tend to be located near it, or at least the sensory organs that are most important to its survival. In this case, almost certainly the eyes. Now, that doesn't mean that every head wound is fatal, though. You can see the jaw, right, contains a lot of blood vessels, but it doesn't necessarily result in a fatality. Other than that, yeah, actually most parts of the head are pretty fatal.
And for the record, I would have kicked your ass the first time if the lady hadn't stopped me.
Sir, it's already overheating. I'll have to separate the core and align them manually when they need to blow.
Son, I have a feeling before this is over, we'll need every last Spartan in the fight. I can do this. Report back to the ship.
Good luck, sir. It's been an honor.
You don't call a sergeant sir. I get it. Different war fighting organization. Sir, the term sir is reserved for officers, lieutenants, captains, majors, colonels, lieutenant colonels, etc.
Hangar Bay reports all crews checked in.
Then let's not outstay our welcome. Best speed away.
Captain, the gravity field from the sun is expanding. We're not going anywhere.
Okay, I'm going to point this out. I don't think you could expand a gravity field, right? The gravity is just a function of mass and I guess maybe a little bit concentration, but you really can't expand a gravity field without adding more mass, and you can't really add more mass unless you pull a lot of energy out of the system. As discussed, this is putting energy out. This is burning a probably tremendous amount of energy in order to, you know, blow up a sun. So in fact, the gravity field would be diminishing very, very rapidly.
Let's see if we can't turn that to our advantage. Serena, plot a course that takes us into the sun. We're going to slingshot around it.
Threading a needle while accelerating around an exploding star inside a planet that's falling apart? Well, sure. Why not?
Serena, can you do it?
It's done. You might want to hold on to something.
Yeah, again, if you have a supercomputer, you can totally figure this out.
Closing your eyes might help too.
The math may get a little different if the sun is inside of a planet. Nah, it still doesn't make any sense. Also, is it even a sci-fi movie if you don't escape an exploding spherical object at the last possible minute as it collapses? It even exploded like the Death Star.
Captain, I would much rather stay awake to monitor this area.
Professor, there's been no sign of the Covenant for almost 2 weeks. There's nothing to do.
But Captain...
But nothing, Professor. You got us all out of there alive. Get some rest.
Not all of us, Captain. Not all of us.
You know, I'm just going to point this out. I think one of the things about this ending that I think captures something that I don't know if the game explored, but being in command is a lonely experience, right? People often talk about the bonds that soldiers have, but when you're in charge of a platoon, you don't get the benefit of being close to them in the same way, right? It's sort of like how if you had, it's tough to explain, right? Because there's no one above you. You have no peers. You have so few peers, and ultimately every decision rests with you, and only you know that responsibility, and only you have to live with it and carry it around, so that even though you have soldiers under you, you have NCOs you can consult, they're always going to be at arm's reach. And your bad days, your tough times, the hard decisions, the moments of weakness, you don't get to share those with anyone. You don't have that privilege. And, you know, a lot of even like presidents talk a lot about it. This idea that ultimately these complex decisions with no clear right answers, right? They don't, you know, all the easy decisions are made by somebody else. And that's the hardest part of command, is that when you see a decision, it's only because it's hard and because there aren't clear right and wrong answers. And that's a burden that only you have to have, and you can't discharge it. It's probably and so the scene where all of his crew are in cryo and he's the last one awake on the ship, that sort of reminds me of that feeling. All right, guys. Wow, that was a fun one. I actually enjoyed that. Halo does a good job, actually, of getting you invested in their characters. It's something that the franchise I really remain impressed with. That, you know, 15 years ago, it was just a sci-fi shooter like any other, but they've really come a long way, and I think a big part of that is their willingness to get you invested in the characters. If there's other sci-fi franchises that you think are going to be fun, or other Halo videos you want me to check out, definitely let me know in the comments, and be sure to follow me on Twitch if you want to see me play some video games, and until next time, I'll see you guys later.